You've probably heard that clay soil is the enemy, that it's the thing standing between you and a thriving garden. And yeah, I get it. Clay can be sticky, compacted, and waterlogged. But here's what nobody tells you. Clay is actually one of the most nutrient-rich, water-retentive growing mediums on the planet. The problem, it's not the clay. The problem is that we've been trying to fight it instead of working with it. I'm Sonny from Sunnyside Soil, and today we're going full soil scientists. We're going to look at what clay actually is, why it behaves the way it does, and the legitimate science-backed ways to improve it, without wasting your money on bag after bag of sand. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand your clay soil better than most people who have been gardening for decades. Let's start with the basics, because this is where most advice goes wrong. Soil texture is determined by the size of mineral particles. Sand particles those are the biggest. You can actually see them. Silt is medium, and clay, well, clay particles are incredibly fine. We're talking less than 0.002 millimeters. You would need an electron microscope to see one single clay particle clearly. And here's where it gets interesting, because clay particles are so tiny that they have an enormous surface area relative to their size. 1 gram of clay can have a surface area of several hundred square meters. Now, those surfaces carry a negative electrical charge, which means that they attract and hold positively charged ions. Things like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and iron. In soil science, we call this the cation exchange capacity, or the CEC. And clay soils have some of the highest CEC values of any type of soil. Your clay soil is literally a nutrient bank. Clay also holds on to water, a lot of it. In drought conditions, a clay soil can be the difference between a plant surviving and dying. So before we talk about improving it, I need you to genuinely appreciate what you have. Let me give you a short list of why clay is actually a gift. We talked about it, high cation exchange capacity. It holds nutrients incredibly well. Sandy soils lose fertilizer through leaching. Clay holds onto those fertilizers. Water retention. Clay acts like a sponge. In a dry summer, this matters enormously. Structural stability. Clay soils don't erode as easily. They hold on to their shape, which is great for slopes and raised beds. Microbial habitat. The pore space in clay aggregates are excellent habitat for beneficial bacteria. Now, with all that being said, yes, clay soil has some very real problems when it's degraded or poorly managed. It compacts easily, it drains poorly, and it becomes sticky or brick hard, depending on your moisture level. Now, these are real issues. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So let's talk about how to actually fix them. Before I tell you what works, I have to address the most common bad advice on the internet, because honestly, I see it everywhere and it genuinely makes things worse. I know, you've heard this 1,000 times. Add sand to loosen clay soil. Please don't. And here's the science behind why. When you mix a small amount of sand into clay, you don't get something in between. You get something closer to concrete. Seriously, this is exactly how bricks are made. A low sand to clay ratio creates a dense, locked structure where the sand particles sit in a clay matrix and everything just kind of seizes up. The drainage gets worse, not better. Now, if you added massive quantities of coarse sand, like a 50-50 blend by volume, you might shift the texture, but we're talking like wheelbarrows upon wheelbarrows, and you'd still need to address the underlying biology anyway. Myth number 2, roto-till it into submission. Now, tilling does break up the clods in the short term, and I understand that appeal, but here's what's actually happening. Tilling destroys the fungal networks, the mycorrhizal hyphae, that help build soil aggregates. It disrupts soil structure. And in clay soils specifically, Repeated tillage creates what is called a hard pan. That's a compacted layer just below the tilling depth that water cannot penetrate. You're essentially creating a bathtub. Every time you till, you're trading a short-term fix for a long-term problem. And hey, thank you for making it this far in the video. If you would like to support us even further, then a super fun way to do that is to buy this Soil Nerd t-shirt. I'll leave a link in the description below. Okay, here's the real stuff, and really probably the reason that you stayed this long. These are science-backed strategies that address the root causes of clay soil problems. One is organic matter, the foundation of everything. The single most effective thing that you can do for clay soil is to add organic matter. That's compost, worm castings, aged manure, leaf mold, all of it. That's all good stuff. This is not complicated advice, but the mechanism behind it is worth understanding. Organic matter feeds the microbial community in your soil. Bacteria and fungi, particularly fungi, produce sticky compounds like glomalin. Glomalin was discovered by USDA researcher Cyril Wright in the 1990s. It acts like a biological glue. It literally binds clay particles into aggregates. Now, these aggregates create macropores, it's the larger spaces between them, which allow water and air to move through. This is called good soil structure, and organic matter is how you build it. I recommend applying 2 to 4 inches of compost to the surface and really just letting that biology work it in over time. If you're starting a new bed, you can gently incorporate it once, but don't make tillage a habit. And if you want to supercharge this process, just add some worm castings. The microbial diversity and density and quality worm castings accelerates aggregate formation. And this is something that we talk a lot about here at Sunnyside Soil. Number 2, know when not to work your soil. Now this one is critical and it's completely free. Do not work clay soil when it is waterlogged. Clay particles are platy and flat, like microscopic sheets of paper. When clay is saturated with water, those particles are essentially floating, fully separated from each other with no frictional resistance. The moment that you apply pressure from like a boot or a tool or a wheelbarrow, those particles get pressed together and align flat against each other. That is compaction. And compaction in clay is extremely difficult to undo. The test is simple, really. Just grab a handful of soil and squeeze it. Open your hand up. If it holds a ribbon or it stays in a tight ball when you poke it, then it's too wet to work. If it crumbles apart, then you are good to go. After a significant rain, you want to wait at least 24 to 48 hours before entering your beds. Really, it's better to just lose a day than to spend years trying to recover crushed soil structure. This is also why permanent raised beds with defined pathways are really just so valuable in a clay soil. You designate the areas that get compacted. The paths and the beds, well, they just never get walked on. Number 3 is cover crops, biological tillage. Now this one is elegant. Instead of mechanically breaking up your clay, you grow plants that do it for you. Certain cover crops, like daikon radish, that is a great example. Another favorite of mine is sunflower. They have a tremendously deep and strong taproot. And it's those taproots that physically penetrate compacted clay layers. When the plant dies, those roots decompose and leave behind channels. These biopores are pathways for water, air, and future roots to follow. You're letting the plant do your tillage for you. Number 4 is mulch. You want to protect the surface clay soil before it dries out. That surface crust can be nearly impenetrable to water runoff instead of infiltration. The fix is keeping the surface covered. A 2 to 3 inch layer of wood chip mulch, straw, or leaf litter does several things simultaneously. It protects the surface from raindrop impact and crusting. It also maintains moisture so that the soil biology stays active. It moderates soil temperature. And as it decomposes, it adds organic matter from the top down. which is exactly how nature does it. You just want to make sure that the mulch is pulled back slightly from the plant stems, but other than that, be generous with it. Now, mulching is one of the highest leverage, low-cost things that you can do. All right, I want to be real with you. Clay soil improvement is not a one-season fix. If you're starting from compacted, low organic matter clay, you are looking at least 2 to 4 years of consistent practice before you can see dramatic results. But, and this matters, you will see incremental improvements every season if you're doing the right things. In year 1, you might notice better drainage after a rain. In year 2, earthworms might start moving in. This is how soil regeneration works. It's not instant, but it's real. And here's the thing. Once you've built good structure into clay soil, you have something incredibly powerful. That high CEC means it holds nutrients like a champ. The water retention means that it's resilient to drought. You've taken one of the most challenging soil types and turned it into one of the most productive. That is worth all of the work. So to bring it all together, clay soil is not your enemy, it's just misunderstood. The key moves are to add organic matter consistently, never worked waterlogged soil, protect the surface with mulch, use cover crops as biological tillage, and keep foot traffic off of your beds. That's it. That is the science-backed playbook. Now, if you found this useful, please hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps more people find the channel. And if you were new here, Sunnyside Soil is all about building healthy soil from the ground up. We talk worm castings, composting, soil biology, and regenerative growing practices. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming, and drop your questions in the comments. I really do read everything. And if you're dealing with a specific clay situation, like hard pan or waterlogged beds, heavy compaction, I want to know about it. And I might just make that the next video. I'm Sunny. This is Sunnyside Soil. Go grow yourself something great.